Hi, I'm Lisa Leiter. In Chicago Business Today, the Chicago economy. The National Bureau of Economic Research this week declared June 2009 as the end to the most recent recession that began in December 2007. For many, though, it doesn't feel like the downturn is over. Nationwide, the worst recession since the Great Depression wiped out more than 8 million jobs. Here in the Chicago area, more than 200,000 jobs were lost during the same period, while the unemployment rate jumped to 10.9% in June of 2009. The recession, of course, also marked by the collapse in the housing market. I sat down with Mesirow Financial Chief Economist Diane Swonk to talk more about the state of the local economy. Diane, the official word is that the recession is over. In past downturns, by the time the NBR got around to dating that the recession was over, the economy may have already been in full swing again. That's not the case this time. Why don't we feel like the recession is over?
Well, it's one of the best questions out there. I think there's two issues. One, look how long it took them, 14 months, even though everybody kind of knew June was the trough. It took them so long to declare the recession over because they weren't quite sure. That said, the reality is once you went through a financial crises are different to recover from than a normal recession. So when you come out of this and you have no more financial sector, we eliminated $10.5 trillion shadow banking industry from 2007. It's gone, poof. And you see things like mortgage rates at record lows, yet it's very hard for people to qualify for mortgages. Even if they're creditworthy borrowers, the number of paperwork, the hurdles, 30–40% down on some condos, it makes it much more difficult for the market to clear and for the things that we usually look to in a recovery like housing, not there.
Okay, so you look at the most recent Beige Book and you talk about the financial crisis. Lending has loosened up a little bit, but part of the main issue here is that the economy is not growing enough to create jobs, and that's definitely true here in Chicago. It seems like temporary staffing needs had actually moderated a bit in August, and that's a barometer for future job growth. So
absolutely.
What's it going to take to create jobs here in the Chicago area?
Unfortunately, time is the only thing that heals here, and these are, although the financial market has loosened up a little bit in many areas, it's easier to get a junk bond issued out there than it is to get a small business loan. So that kind of gives you the, the inequity and the unevenness of the recovery, and small businesses are the backbone of job creation. And when they're hurting, that means you're not going to get a lot of job creation. So I think, the real challenge is, time, unfortunately, is the only thing that's going to heal this process. We tend to see, after financial crisis, 10 years of subpar growth if we're lucky. That's growth. We can also always see a secondary downturn. I'm hoping that we do see growth, but that's really not much solace to someone who's been unemployed since, this whole thing started in the fall of 2008.
So how fragile then would you say this recovery is? What are the chances that we could enter into a double dip recession?
I think there's, they always ask the probabilities, and I'll tell you, it's really nothing more than a guess. We can make economic models that pretend like we know what we're doing, but this is unprecedented territory we're in. That said, my own gut feeling is, it's moved up to about 20%, and that's way too high 14 months into what should be a recovery to be still thinking about falling down again.
Sure. Is Chicago more susceptible, you think, to another downturn? What's it going to take for our main indicators to improve? I mean, we've got unemployment at 10%, job growth is anemic. What's it going to take to improve things locally?
The fact that we've just gotten this whole new wave of foreclosures on the market, which is suppressing home values, which is a large part of what people consider their personal wealth, that secondary big boom in foreclosures, which is now hitting the prime households and things like that, and the strategic foreclosures where people actually walk away from their commitments. We can't allow that. And changes in the foreclosure law, I know it doesn't sound like it's the most glamorous fix out there, but on the margin, the housing market is part of what got us into this. And the housing market's what we count on for jobs and growth getting out of it. It is the single largest trigger to additional consumer spending. And it also, we're starting to see places where rents are exceeding the marginal cost of home ownership, which tells you we're close to a tipping point. But if you can't get that mortgage and you can't get rid of the foreclosures, which keep pushing down home values in some of the inner city neighborhoods, you're not going to get clearing that you need to get.
Okay, Diane. Well, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that's this edition of Chicago Business Today. For all of your breaking news, be sure to stick with chicagobusiness.com and follow us on Twitter. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.